Let's see, here we go. Okay, notice is out. Okay, we are, whoops, are we live? Whoops. Yeah, we are live. Okay, let's get started. Let's see, I'll have to stop exactly on time because I have a program tonight. All right. And that program will also be broadcast, and I'll send a notice out about that too. It's mainly a dear time program. Okay, let us chant. Guru Charana Padma Palabhakati Sadma Madan Mui Sarvadana Mate Hey Shri Guru Charan Padma Palabhakati Sadma Madan Mui Sarvadana Mate Jakara Prasade Pai Bhavatori Atyai Krishna Prabhi Hoy Avo Hoy Apakyan Chete Kore Akaya Aranakori Omane Azan Shikuru Jokane Rati Ese Utamagate Sare Shikuru Charane Rati Ese Utamagati Chipasane Purisa Makasa Takudan Diloye Jamigan me Prabhu say Dilo ye, Jamigan me Prabhu say Vivekanrede Prakasita Vivekanrede Prakasita go Prema Bhakti Yoite Avijavanasa Yoite Prema Bhakti Yoite Avijavanasa Yoite Vedegai Rajatrita Vedegai Rajarita Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adamajanara Bandhu Guru Karuna Sindhu Adamajanara Bandhu Mukanath Kera Jivana Mukanath Kera Jivana Prabhu Kodadaya Amore Padachaya Prabhu Kodadaya De Amore Padachaya Ebias Kusutri Bhuvana Ebias Kusutri Bhuvana Shilaya Subrana Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Go Haribo Bo Haribo Bo Jai Go Bo Bo Haribo Haribo Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paravikacharya all Sutera Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Sabaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Kicha ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Jai Prem Say Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shiva Sri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sai Makunda Radhakunda Kiri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuram Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasidevi Ki Jai Sapaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Haribol, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari Devashesha Shunyavadi Paschachate Shatana. Right. So because we may have a shorter time tonight, I'm not going to read the translation. Well, actually, I could. I have it memorized. The lotus feet of our spiritual master is the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus feet and lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes with transcendental knowledge and fills my heart. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, let us go and continue with our study of the Sri Isopanisad. We're going very quickly through the Sri Isopanisad, although we're touching upon all the points and explaining them very simply so everyone can understand them. So, Om Gana Timidandasya Garanjana Shilakya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So let's share the screen and we'll go on. 1 second. All right. Where is that? It's one of the windows, the many hundreds of windows that I have opened up. There it is. Is that it? Oh, yeah. Oh, no, that's the last verse. Oh. All right, we got to go ahead. It's actually 2 verses. I made a mistake. I am fallible. And we did 9. And now we're on 10. All right. Actually, we're on 11. Sorry. Yeah. We're on 11. So, sorry about that. Sorry for being fallible. So we're starting with mantra. Mantra 11. Okay. So, which is very interesting, because the previous mantra, if you remember 10, actually we should show 10 right now too. Give me a second, because we want to contrast it. Give me 1 second. All right. Under 10. Oh. Let's see. Hold on a second. Let me just check something out. Give me a second. Oh, it's hard. Everyone be very patient with me. I check something out on the computer. Computer is not behaving itself. Yes. All right, I was wrong. We didn't do mantra 10. So let's go back and look at mantra 10. Sorry about that. I thought we had done mantra 10, but we didn't. All right, let's share the screen again. All right, sorry for this bug. Oh, God. Okay. Whoops. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, friends. Okay. Share the screen. Mantra 10. Okay. Here we go. Just Mantra 10. There's still computer problems here. Okay. Trying to, the computer. I have too many things opened up on the computer. That's the problem. Okay. Here we go. Mantra 10. Sorry. Anya devahur vijaya Andyadahur avidya iti shushumadirandham yenastad vichachakshire. Anyat, different. Eva, certainly. Ahu, said. Vid, yaya, by culture of knowledge. Anyat, different. Ahu, said. Avidya, by culture of nescience. Iti, thus. Shushruma, I heard. Dhiranam, from the sober. Yea, who. Na, to us. Tat, that. Vicha chakshire, explained. The wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge and that a different result is obtained from the culture of nescience. So, Prabhupada's purport, as advised in chapter 13 of the Bhagavad Gita, 13:8-12, one should culture knowledge in the following way. Now, these are qualities of someone who should culture knowledge. 1. One should become a perfect gentleman and learn to give respect, proper respect to others. 2. One should not pose himself as a religionist simply for name and fame. 3. One should not become a source of anxiety to others by the actions of his body, by the thoughts of his mind, or by his words. 4. One should learn forbearance even in the face of provocation from others. 5. One should learn to avoid duplicity in his dealings with others. 6. One should search out a bona fide spiritual master who can lead him gradually to the stage of spiritual realization, and one must submit himself to such a spiritual master, render him service, and ask relevant questions. 7. In order to approach the platform of self-realization, one must follow the regulative principles enjoined in the revealed scriptures. 8. One must be fixed in the tenets of the revealed scriptures. One should completely refrain from practices which are detrimental to the interest of self-realization. 10. One should not accept more than he requires for the maintenance of the body. Remember, of course, that one's very similar to the first verse in the Isopanisad, which is Isha Vashamidam Sarvam Yatkancha Jagajan Jagat Tenatakshena Bunjadha Madgridha Kashasvidanam, which states that everything is owned and controlled by the Supreme Lord, and everyone has his quota. 11. One should not falsely identify himself with the gross material body, nor should one consider those who are related to his body to be his own. 12. One should always remember that as long as he has a material body, he must face the miseries of repeated birth, old age, disease, and death. There is no use in making plans to get rid of these miseries of the material body. Oh my God. The best course is to find out the means by which one may regain his spiritual identity. Of course, at the same time, if there is some opportunity to deal with disease, obviously you should take that opportunity to deal with disease, but not over-endeavor. Not just to keep yourself alive as a vegetable. So the problem here is just re-emphasizing or overemphasizing to show us the priorities in life. One should not be attached to more than the necessities of life required for spiritual advancement. 14. One should not be more attached to wife, children, and home than the revealed scriptures ordain. So let me explain that. What does it mean one should not be more attached? So do the scriptures ordain that someone should have some attachment? Yes, attachment to what? Helping the wife, children, home, and whoever is actually under your tutelage or guidance or protection, helping them come to Krishna consciousness and helping them advance in Krishna consciousness. One should be attached in that way. And as part of that attachment, you should be concerned with their happiness or with their health and mental stability even in this world, because if people don't have health and mental stability and physical stability in this world, they won't be able to progress very nicely in Krishna consciousness. So it's not that one should be callous to the material needs of people, because the material needs are needs. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur states that in order to progress in an even pace in Krishna consciousness, one's material needs as well as spiritual needs need to be addressed. One should not be happy or distressed over desirables and undesirables, knowing that such feelings are created by the mind. Shoo. One should become an unalloyed devotee of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and serve him with rapt attention. Shoo. That's a high bar. One should develop a liking for residence in a secluded place with a calm and quiet atmosphere favorable for spiritual culture. And one should avoid congested places where non-devotees congregate. Interesting. Yeah, so a devotee, naturally, advanced devotee likes to be contemplative. Contemplative, yeah. He likes to contemplate and have peace and quiet. But he'll go sometimes where there's congested places in order to present Krishna consciousness, in order to associate with other devotees. But his basic like is to be peaceful. Prabhupada said, this is a symptom of a devotee. He likes a calm and quiet atmosphere favorable for spiritual culture. That doesn't mean we do away with kirtans. But one must have QT means quality time, whereby one is able to contemplate and meditate and chant one's rounds in a peaceful way. One should become a scientist or philosopher and conduct research into spiritual knowledge, recognizing that spiritual knowledge is permanent, whereas material knowledge ends with the death of the body. These 18 items combine to form a gradual process by which real knowledge can be developed. Except for these, all other methods are considered to be in the category of nescience. Wow. So, of course, under each one of those categories, there's subcategories. Obviously. Even like the chanting of the holy name is not specifically mentioned in those categories, but it is indirectly understood. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a great Acharya, maintained that all forms of material knowledge are merely external features of the illusory energy, and that by culturing them one becomes no better than an ass. The same principle is found here in Sri Isopanisad. Now, you're going to read in the next verse, which is verse 11, that you need to cultivate some material knowledge, have some material expertise, and engage in Krishna service in order just to exist in this world. So, what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is referring to here is that cultivating material knowledge for the sake of enjoying the cultivation, or without any overriding spiritual purpose, makes one as foolish as an ass. By advancement of material knowledge, modern man is simply being converted into an ass. Strong words. Some materialistic politicians and spiritual guys decry the present system of civilization as satanic. But unfortunately, they do not care about the culture of real knowledge as it is described in the Bhagavad Gita. Thus, they cannot change the satanic situation. In other words, you can't have godliness without God, without understanding that there are certain objective principles given to us by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Vedic literatures and other revealed scriptures. Then you really can't have any standard of behavior or no reason to follow a particular standard of behavior. This is a very important point, because then all morals and ethical principles become relative. If you don't have God, then basically all ethics, morality becomes relative. And everybody has their own interpretation of what is ethical and what is moral. In the modern society, even a boy thinks himself self-sufficient and pays no respect to elderly men. Due to the wrong type of education being imparted in our universities, boys all over the world are giving their elders headaches. Not only boys, girls too. Not only the education itself at the university, but the socialization that occurs at the university. Thus, Sri Isopanisad very strongly warns that the culture of nescience is different from that of knowledge. The universities are, so to speak, centers of nescience only. Strong words. Consequently, scientists are busy discovering lethal weapons to wipe out the existence of other countries. Of course, that's the atomic bomb and hydrogen bomb and other weapons. University students today are not given instructions in the regulative principles of brahmacharya, celibate student life, nor do they have any faith in any scriptural injunctions. In fact, they're given instructions in the opposite to brahmacharya life, or in opposite to the regulative principles of brahmacharya life. They're given instructions how to become loose in their moral principles and religious principles. Because without God, everything, as I mentioned before, is relative. Religious principles are taught for the sake of name and fame only, and not for the sake of practical action. Thus there is animosity not only in social and political fields, but in the field of religion as well. Nationalism has developed in different parts of the world due to the cultivation of nescience by the general people. No one considers that this tiny earth is just a lump of matter floating in immeasurable space along with many other lumps. In comparison to the vastness of space, these material lumps are like dust particles in the air, because God has kindly made these lumps of matter complete in themselves. They are perfectly equipped with all necessities for floating in space. The drivers of our spaceships may be very proud of their achievements, but they do not consider the supreme driver of these greater, more gigantic spaceships called planets. There are innumerable suns and innumerable planetary systems also, as infinitesimal parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. We small creatures are trying to dominate these unlimited planets. Thus we take repeated birth and death and are generally frustrated by old age and disease. The span of human life is scheduled for about 100 years, although it is gradually decreasing to 20 or 30 years. Someone may argue with that. How is it possible we see people living longer? Well, one thing is, with all the abortions going on, if you average them in, then you'll see practically lifespan is averaging right now probably about 40 years old if you average in the abortion. So usually that should be done. Thanks to the culture of nescience, befooled men have created their own nations within these planets in order to grasp sense enjoyment more effectively for these few years. Such foolish people draw up various plans to render national demarcations. That means the demarcation means to demark or to make a separation between one country and another. Perfectly, a task that is totally impossible. Yet for this purpose, each and every nation has become a source of anxiety for others. More than 50% of a nation's energy is devoted to defense measures and thus spoiled. No one cares for the cultivation of real knowledge, yet people are falsely proud of being advanced in both material and spiritual knowledge. Sri Isopanisad warns us of this faulty type of education, and the Bhagavad Gita gives instructions as to the development of real knowledge. This mantra states that the instructions of vidya, knowledge, must be acquired from a dhira. A dhira is one who is not disturbed by material illusion. Dhira also means someone who's peaceful. No one can be undisturbed unless he is perfectly spiritually realized, at which time one neither hankers nor laments for anything. A dhira realizes that the material body and mind he has acquired by chance through material association are but foreign elements. Therefore, he simply makes the best use of a bad bargain. The material body and mind are bad bargains for the spiritual living entity. It's all pretty self-explanatory. The living entity has actual functions in the living spiritual world, but this material world is dead. As long as the living spiritual sparks, that's us, manipulate the dead lumps of matter, the dead world appears to be a living world. Actually, it is the living souls, the parts and parcels of the Supreme Living Being, who move the world. The dhiras, I mean self-realized souls, or people who are peaceful, have come to know all these facts by hearing them from superior authorities and have realized this knowledge by following the regulative principles. To follow the regulative principles, one must take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. The transcendental message and regulative principles come down from the spiritual master to the disciple. Such knowledge does not come in the hazardous way of nescient education. It means ignorant education. One can become a dhira only by submissively hearing from a bona fide spiritual master. Arjuna, for example, became a dhira by submissively hearing from Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead himself. Thus, the perfect disciple must be like Arjuna, and the spiritual master must be as good as the Lord himself. This is the process of learning vidya, knowledge, from the dhira, the undisturbed or peaceful person. An adhira, that's the opposite of dhira, that is one who has not undergone the training of dhira, cannot be an instructive leader. So, adanda gopir vishatam tamishram purnas charvita charvadanam. That is, one who has uncontrolled senses, he'll simply be engaged in trying to squeeze some enjoyment out of that which is not enjoyable. In other words, chewing the already chewed, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Modern politicians who pose themselves as dhiras are actually adhiras. Wow. And one cannot expect perfect knowledge from them. They are simply busy seeing to their own remuneration in dollars and cents. How then can they lead the mass of people to the right path of self-realization? Thus one must hear submissively from a dhira in order to attain actual education. Okay. So there's a lot of negativity towards avidya here, or material knowledge. Now in the next verse, we see a contrast to that. It's very interesting how material knowledge is necessary in order to engage in something called what? Yukta Vairagya. Yukta Vairagya means the renunciation by engaging things in Krishna service. For example, I have some material knowledge, let's say a little bit of it, is taking care of is operating a computer and operating this microphone and the camera and everything like that. That's some material knowledge. If I didn't have that knowledge, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing right now. If I didn't have the knowledge how to drive, if I didn't have the knowledge how to build a building, which is material knowledge, we wouldn't have a temple here in North Carolina, because I built the building and designed the building and everything. Oh my God. That's when I was a young person. I can't say devotee, but I was young. Brahmachari. No, it wasn't brahmachari, it was sannyasi at that time. All right, let's read the contrasting version in Mantra 11. How we do need some avidya. Okay, next verse, which is what the verse I thought we were on today, because it also contrasts with verse 9. That's why I thought we were on this verse today. So vidyam chayas tadvedo vayam saha avidyam rityum tirtva vijya ayam ritachashnute. Vidyam, knowledge, in fact, cha, and avidyam, nescience, cha, and ya, a person who, tat, that, Veda knows, ubayam, both. Wow. Saha, simultaneously, avidya, the culture of nescience, by the culture of nescience, mrityum, repeated death, tirtva, transcending, vidya, by the culture of knowledge, amritam, deathlessness, ashnute, enjoys. So the translation is, only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. Really interesting. In other words, we have to, not too much nescience, because that's a danger, and one becomes as foolish as an ass, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But too little, and one will be inept. Prabhupada was very expert. One of the qualities of a pure devotee is daksha. Daksha means expert. He was very expert materially and spiritually. He was expert in dealing with this material world, in finances, in management, in people skills. I mean, all sorts of what we would call material skills. Of course, for him they weren't material skills, because those sort of skills of this world, let's not use the word material, when they're used in Krishna's service become spiritual or spiritualized. So we need material skills, but if you become too much enamored by material education, material skills, then down, down, down. I mean, you forget your Krishna consciousness. Since the creation of the material world, everyone has been trying to attain a permanent life. But the laws of nature are so cruel that no one has been able to avoid the hand of death. No one wants to die, nor does anyone want to become old or diseased. The law of nature, however, does not allow anyone immunity from old age, disease, or death. Nor has the advancement of material knowledge solved these problems. Material science can discover the nuclear bomb to accelerate the process of death, but it cannot discover anything that can protect man from the cruel hands of old age, disease, and death. Pretty self-explanatory. From the Puranas, so the Puranas, there's 18 main Puranas. The Bhagavad Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam, is the most important Purana for us. It's called the Bhagavad Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam. We learn of the activities of Hiranyakashipu, a king who was very much advanced materially, wanting to conquer cruel death by his material acquisitions and the strength of his nescience. He underwent a type of meditation so severe that the inhabitants of all the planetary systems became disturbed by his mystic powers. He forced the creator of the universe, the demigod Brahma, to come down to him. He then asked Brahma for the benediction of becoming Amara, by which one does not die. Brahma said that he could not award the benediction because even he, the material creator, who rules all planets, is not Amara. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 8:17, Brahma lives a long time, but that does not mean he is immortal. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. In other words, 1,000 Divya Yugas together is Brahma's one day. Divya Yuga means all four Yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, is one Divya Yuga. So 1,000 of those cycles is one day of Lord Brahma, and 1,000 of those cycles is one night of Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma lives for 365 days a year. Perhaps there's a leap year, and 100 years of his time. Hiranya means gold, and Kasipu means soft bed. This cunning gentleman, it's interesting how Prabhupada calls him a gentleman, Hiranyakashipu was interested in these two things, money and women, and he wanted to enjoy them by becoming immortal. He asked from Brahma many benedictions in hopes of indirectly fulfilling his desire to become immortal. So, of course, the word Hiranyakashipu means gold and beds. Since Brahma told him that he could not grant the gift of immortality, Hiranyakashipu requested that he not be killed by any man, animal, god, or any other living being within the 8,400,000 species. Wow. He also asked that he not die on land, in the air or water, or by any weapon. In this way, Hiranyakashipu foolishly thought these guarantees would save him from death. Ultimately, however, although Brahma granted him all these benedictions, he was killed by the personality of Godhead in the form of Nrsimha, the Lord's half-lion, half-man incarnation, and no weapon was used to kill him, for he was killed by the Lord's nails. Nor was he killed on the land, in the air, or in the water, for he was killed on the lap of that wonderful living being, Nrsimha, who was beyond his conception. The whole point here is that even Hiranyakashipu, the most powerful of materialists, could not become deathless by his various plans. What then can be accomplished by the tiny Hiranyakashipus of today, whose plans are thwarted from moment to moment? Sri Isopanisad instructs us not to make one-sided attempts to win the struggle for existence. Everyone is struggling hard for existence, but the laws of material nature are so hard and fast they do not allow anyone to surpass them. In order to attain a permanent life, one must be prepared to go back to Godhead. Actually, I was just reading an article today in the news how the scientists are claiming they were able to reverse life in mice. Actually, they say they were doing that, but they weren't doing that. What they were doing is going to individual organs and rejuvenating individual organs. They were reversing life in terms of turning an old mouse back into a young mouse. And so everyone has this expectation by the advancement of science that I can reverse my aging and I'll be a young man again. It's It's not going to happen. The process by which one goes back to Godhead is a different branch of knowledge, and it has to be learned from the revealed scriptures such as the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. To become happy in this life and attain a permanent blissful life after leaving this material body, one must study this sacred literature and obtain transcendental knowledge. The conditioned living being, that's us, has forgotten his eternal relationship with God and has mistakenly accepted the temporary place of his birth as all in all. The Lord has kindly delivered the above-mentioned scriptures in India and other scriptures in other countries to remind the forgetful human being that his home is not here in this material world. The living being is a spiritual entity, and he can be happy only by returning to his spiritual home, the kingdom of God. From his kingdom, that's the kingdom of God, the personality of Godhead sends his bona fide servants to propagate this message by which one can return to Godhead, and sometimes the Lord comes himself to do this work. Of course, an example of a bona fide servant that was sent to save us is His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And as far as when the Lord came himself, that's Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was directly Krishna, of course Krishna in the mood of Radharani. Since all living beings are his beloved sons, his parts and parcels, God is more sorry than we ourselves to see the sufferings we are constantly undergoing in this material condition. The miseries of this material world serve to indirectly remind us of our incompatibility with dead matter. That's very important. The soul is incompatible with dead matter. That's why there's no happiness. Intelligent, the example given by Prabhupada many times is that a fish outside of the water can't be happy because the fish's natural situation is in the water. It's incompatible outside of the water with the air environment. Intelligent living entities generally take note of these reminders and engage themselves in the culture of vidya or transcendental knowledge. Human life is the best opportunity for the culture of spiritual knowledge, and a human being who does not take advantage of this opportunity is called the Radhama, the lowest of human beings. The path of avidya, or advancement of material knowledge for sense gratification, is the path of repeated birth and death. Now here, Prabhupada qualifies this. Path of avidya, or advancement of material knowledge for sense gratification, but advancement of material knowledge for serving Krishna is not the path of repeated birth and death. As he exists spiritually, the living entity has no birth or death. Birth and death apply to the outward covering of the spirit soul of the body. Death is compared to the taking off, and birth to the putting on of outward garments. Foolish human beings who are grossly absorbed in the culture of avidya nescience do not mind this cruel process because they're in ignorance. Enamored with the beauty of the illusory energy, they undergo the same miseries repeatedly and do not learn any lessons from the laws of nature. That's called chewing the already chewed. Punak punas, char vitachar vananam. Okay, let's see how much more we have in this verse. We have quite a bit. Okay, so we're going to stop here and take questions because I want to end on time because I have a program this evening. So we're stopping in the middle of the 10th. Okay. Let us take some questions. We're stopping to share. The computer's going slow because I have too many windows open. And you're allowed to unmute yourselves now. Okay. Does anyone have a question? You can type in the chat window, or you can unmute yourself, or you can raise your hands. What program? The program actually is here in Hillsborough. It's not in Raleigh, so don't worry. So, Pran Govinda, oh my God. All right, you got
Hare
one
Krishna.
question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada.
So, what's the question?
Something you said was striking to me about the lifespan, duration of lifespan. We just read yesterday in the temple, second canto, 7th chapter, 36 verse, where Prabhupada says, in the age of Kali, the less intelligent man mistakenly considered the short lifetime of 100 years. Now,
Yes.
factually, then he says, now factually reduced to about 40 or 60 years.
Well, Prabhupada said it. Yeah, towards we go on in Kali Yuga, it will get reduced more and more. But
So my question is, it's like a paradox. Prabhupada himself was close to 80.
yes,
And
yep.
everybody sitting in the temple has a grandparents about that age, 70, 80. But Prabhupada, how to understand?
How do I understand? Well, it's not 40 now. I said it's 40 if you average in. My point was, it's 40 if you average in all the abortions.
Yeah. We never thought that.
Yeah, if you average it right now, if you average in all the abortions, then you'll see it's actually 40. And actually, if you average in people from around the world, I mean, America, people tend to live longer. Of course, a pretty miserable life of living longer. But in other countries, many other countries, like in some African countries, the average lifespan is like 30 or 40.
Hmm.
In many what's called third world countries. So there's different ways of looking at it. But in any case, that's as Kali Yuga progresses. Kali Yuga has just started now. Prabhupada didn't indicate that right now people are only living to 30 or 40. As Kali Yuga progresses, but it was my point, not Prabhupada's point, that right now if you average in the abortions, then you'll probably get to about 30 or 40 average age. I mean, there's millions of abortions being performed in the United States every year.
It's interesting. None of us thought like that, but that's very interesting. Thank you for giving some lights in that.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not really talking about the end of Kali Yuga. At the end of Kali Yuga, someone who's 22 years old will be considered an old man.
Thank
We're
you.
just we're just at the beginning of Kali Yuga right now.
That's true.
This is not the end. I mean, just like this is like the basically the Satya Yuga part of Kali Yuga. So it's bad, but it's not that bad. It's going to get worse and worse and worse, and that's why better to go. And then at the end of Kali Yuga, you have the Kalki avatar, who just kills all the rascals.
How old is your body, Maharaj?
Uh, 23.
You look like 23. Thank
Oh
you.
my, oh my God. Yeah, no. Anyway, I was born. You can figure it out. 1949.
49.
That's before your parents.
73.
70. 70.
73. It's 73.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't remind me. I was just thinking I was a young man. Okay, so let's take another question or two. Otherwise, I have to end pretty quickly because I have this program tonight. So, Vidvan, you have a question? Okay, what's the question?
So, sorry, Gurudev, that was accidental.
Okay,
I don't have a question.
okay, thank you. So, the last question will be Jagat. Jagat has a question.
Um, is there anything in this purport about Yukta Vairagya, or does that interpretation just come from the whole of Prabhupada's teachings? Because I didn't get
that comes from the verse.
Okay.
That comes from the verse. Prabhupada really didn't deal with that in the purport itself, but the verse actually states that.
Okay.
Very good question. Yeah, well, Prabhupada didn't deal with it, but it's no one. obviously, I mean, Prabhupada cultivated material knowledge or physical knowledge in order to serve Krishna in this world. Okay, I'm going to end a little early because I have this program that I have to go to, or choose to go to. I don't have to do anything. Also, another point that Tulsi made here is that sometimes old people who apparently are living longer are living the living death by being kept alive artificially with dementia and diseases, which is actually increasing over the last 10 or 20 years. The amount of people with dementia and other lifelong chronic diseases. So, on that happy note, I'm sure that's really a happy note, we'll see everybody tomorrow evening. Tomorrow evening, we're not giving the Sunday feast, so we'll be doing the regular class here online. So thank you very much.